This is the Louie Tee Network.
Could it be? For me, your me, Louie Tee. Welcome to lockdown coverage, week number 13 in the National Football League. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And this was a game of two teams, I don't want to say that have disappointed this season. I guess you could throw the Eagles in that discussion after the start to the season, but going into the season, the expectations for the Eagles were relatively low. You trade away Sam Bradford right before the season starts. You anoint Carson Wentz your starter. No one was expecting this Eagles team to compete in the NFC East before the season started. But after starting the season 3-0, and again, the schedule was favorable, Browns and Bears to start. That win against Pittsburgh at home, the dismantling of the Steelers, kind of caught everyone's attention. And since then, they haven't been a consistent football team after starting 3-0 and going on that bye week and coming off the bye and then having their season basically be an up and down mess to landing them where they are now at 5-7. Yeah, it's sort of a disappointment, but I don't really view it as a disappointment because, again, I didn't have high expectations for this Eagles team coming into the season. For the Bengals, however, that's not the case. In fact, you could argue they're one of the most disappointing teams in this season, in the league this season, as they haven't been able to get it done consistently, coming into this game at 3-7-1. Their season basically done already. Not basically, it is done. And with all the injuries starting to mount on the offensive side of the football, you're now trying to salvage some things, trying to figure out, okay, who can play, who can't. And maybe some of these injuries might actually be blessings in disguise for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll explain myself a little bit later on. But first, before we jump into this breakdown, if you haven't already done so, welcome first and foremost. But make sure you subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help me do that by hitting the subscribe button on YouTube and becoming a member of the Louie Tee Network. Also, I'm on Twitter at In the Lab Room. It's a Twitter handle. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. And I'm also on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. All my social media platforms right in the center console there. Scrolling across the screen, make sure that you check them out and you handle yours. Subscribe, follow, and like all of those social media platforms. Let's jump into this breakdown. We start with the victors in this game, the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, I thought that Andy Dalton, this is the Andy Dalton that you want to see, okay? He's been up and down this season. You've got good Andy, you've gotten bad Andy. You need more of the good Andy for this team to succeed. If he's not good, this team doesn't stand a chance. End of discussion, okay? Your leading rusher in this game was Rex Burkhead, all right? That's a problem. Okay, if Burkhead's going to lead you in rushing, that means Andy Dalton has to take it to another level. Well, he did in this game. That's what you need from him. He was inconsistent versus the Giants in a loss. He was inconsistent versus the Redskins in a tie. He was bad against the Cowboys in a game that you didn't stand a chance in and was down 28-0. Look, you need him to play this type of football if you're going to have a chance. He was outstanding in this game. Some of the throws, oh my goodness. You couldn't have ran up and handed the football to these receivers. The one to Cody Core down the sideline, are you kidding me? Okay, I mean, the throw to Eifert, the diving catch before the half, again, these were money throws in this game by Andy Dalton, and that's what you need from your franchise QB. You need him to step up in times, even like this, when you're struggling, you can't figure some things out. You just need a guy to start making some plays, and I thought Dalton did that in this game, along with the defense, who has been a huge disappointment for this team this season as well. Speaking of which, let's talk about the defense before we talk about some individual performers in this game. I thought the defense was outstanding in this game. Carson Wentz had to throw it 60 times in this game, and you look at the way that the Eagles went about their business. They didn't run it effectively in this game. And they put everything on the shoulders of Wentz, and the defense took advantage of that. He's still a young guy. I mean, sometimes you forget because of how mature some of these quarterbacks have come in the league and been in terms of their production, that they're still rookies and that they will make mistakes if you press them and force them into those decisions. 60 throws, 3 interceptions. This Bengals defense batted down some balls. They were all over him. They made him uncomfortable. They hit him a ton in this game. They made Carson Wentz uncomfortable, and they did what they had to do. And when you get stops, good things can happen for you on the offensive side of the football. When you get turnovers, better things can happen for you on the offensive side of the football, like scoring on your first 6 possessions of the game, which is what the Bengals did. The first time they've scored on the first 3 possessions of the game since 2014. So huge game for Cincinnati to score on your first 6 possessions. Do you know how rare that is to jump on top of these Eagles in this game and really make it tough on them? At one point, I think the score had grown to what were we at, 29-0 before the Eagles finally got on the scoreboard and made it a little interesting at 29-14. The Cincinnati Bengals came out to play in this game, and again, some of it can be put on the Eagles and them not being a good road team. Some of it could just be that the Cincinnati Bengals just came out, had a good game plan, executed, and went out and played some flawless football at times, scoring points. And again, it's not always about getting touchdowns, just momentum, continuing that momentum by scoring points. And so you were able to do that in this game. Big game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Also good to see the young boys. And this is what I talked about, blessing in disguise. You never want to see anybody get hurt, especially a guy like A.J. Green, who's one of the fixtures and one of the big-time names on this team and performers at that. You never want to see those types of guys go down. You don't want to see anybody go down, period. But especially when it's one of your big-time playmakers and difference makers on your football team. But in his absence, you're going to find out what you have at receiver. Some of these other guys are going to get a chance to come in, get more reps, get more snaps, and you can see what these guys have. And one of the guys that I highlighted in this game is someone that I was looking forward to seeing this season, and now because of the injuries, he's getting an opportunity, is Cody Core. Okay, this is a guy coming out of Ole Miss that can play football. He's got some good size on him, some good speed. He's one of these guys. Look, we've talked, one of the biggest drop-offs this season has been at the receiver position, and I understand that the receivers that they had last year, the production wasn't all that great, this, that, and the third, but they were guys that were reliable, that you could count on, that you knew what you were getting from them week in and week out. Now, all of a sudden, with those guys now departing and moving on to greener pastures, one of the biggest drop-offs on this football team, and that, coupled with your tight end position being ravaged by injuries, especially early in the season when Eifert wasn't able to go, hurting you in the red zone in a lot of instances, was the receiver position. And you had a lot of young guys, a lot of young youth and inexperience out there. Brandon LaFell really took him a while to catch on. He had one of his better games in this game as well. It took him a while to catch on, and you were relying too heavily on Tyler Boyd to come in and be an impact player. Cody Core wasn't ready yet. And so now with this injury, guys have to step up. And you're seeing guys making plays. Cody Core with his first catch of his career in the NFL, and he damn near scores a touchdown on a beautiful catch and run after the catch. So he's getting involved now. Tyler Boyd, I think he's comfortable now. He's really acclimated himself, and you're going to be able to rely on him a little bit more heavily next season. And now you're starting to see some of these other guys, special teams guys like Taylor, step up, make some plays as well. So I think his name is Taylor. It might be I know it's the guy from LSU. He's a big-time special teams guy. But he can catch the football. I've been actually impressed with him over the last 2 years or so. When he's gotten opportunities, he's caught the football. So there's some stuff there at receiver. It's all about developing these guys and having them come along. And if you can couple A.J. Green with one of these guys and have them step up, and if LaFell can, materialize into a solid number 2, you might have something there in Cincinnati for the future. Of course, this is a lost season, but you want to see guys compete. You want to know what you have because, like I said, this is one of the more talented teams in the National Football League. You just need these young draft picks to develop so that you can start to put the pieces back together in Cincinnati. This is a really good victory here. And again, despite the season not turning out the way you want, you need to see guys perform, and that's what you're seeing right now. How about we dial back some of these passes to Jake Fisher? I'm cool with him around the end zone. You're getting out of control now. He fumbled the football. Now let's scale these and dial these back a little bit, man. Keep them around the end zone. Keep them manageable. Don't get too cute now. I saw the Raiders get cute. I'm watching you get cute, and you had to pay for it with a turnover. Let's dial these back a little bit now. Let's not get out of hand. Okay? Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's go to the other side of things with the Eagles, who now dropped to 5-7 on the season. This is more along the lines of what I expected from this Eagles football team. They've got some injuries, of course, that's going to impact them. When Paul Turner is your leading receiver. Who the hell has heard of Paul Turner? Raise your hand. If you're not an Eagles fan, raise your hand. I don't see many hands up. I damn sure didn't know who the hell he was. I had to go look him up. Like, who is this guy? Why should I know him? They said, you shouldn't. I said, okay, good. I don't feel bad now. But he was their leading receiver in this game, and they're asking too much of Carson Wentz right now. And that's a sad state of affairs right now in Philly. The man threw it 60 times. That is not a winning recipe for most quarterbacks in the league. I don't give a damn what your name is. If you're throwing it 60 times, most likely it's in a loss. Especially add to the fact that it's a rookie and now you're really in trouble. And that's how you end up with a stat line that features 1 touchdown versus 3 interceptions. You can't put that kind of weight on the shoulders of a rookie quarterback on the road in a hostile environment and expect him to succeed. They didn't run the football nearly enough. They didn't run it effectively enough. And part of the reason they didn't run it effectively enough or more was because it wasn't effective. They found themselves in a number of third and long situations. There was one possession where they had a couple of false starts back to back. There was one possession where it was 3rd and 7 and they decided, hey, we're going to run it. And then they kicked the field goal and missed. Like, I just thought that this game, I gave the coaching staff of the Philadelphia Eagles, Peterson and company, a lot of credit earlier in the season when they were having success for their game plans. They were impeccable earlier in the season. A lot of moving parts, a lot of guys running around. You really didn't know what to expect. All of a sudden now they've become a lot more predictable. The offense isn't in the same rhythm and timing as it was earlier in the season. Of course, now it's starting to become commonplace to see an Eagles receiver drop the football. Now you're starting to realize they don't have much at receiver. I mean, I saw a lot of Burton in this particular game catching the football. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's not a good thing. And again, having Paul Turner out there catching balls and making plays is a good thing for them. But again, it just shows the lack of depth on this Eagles roster in terms of receivers. And so when guys miss games and you don't have your normal complement of players, this is a team right now that you're starting to see that they don't have a lot of depth on this roster. And so it's all about life after Chip. You're still trying to, build those pieces and find those guys and bring them on board. And it's going to take some time. And that's why I didn't think the Eagles would be good this season. They've actually exceeded my expectations because at this point of the season, the way that I had their season going, they were supposed to be like 3-9, 4-8 right about now. They're 5-7. And like I said, the 3-0 start kind of skewed the perception of them. A lot of people thought they were better than what they really were. No, this is an Eagles roster that's still being built. Remember, Chip Kelly blew this thing up and really turned this organization into a joke overnight. So they got work to do. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And so what you've gotten out of Carson Wentz this season thus far is encouraging. Because even though he threw 3 interceptions, I thought he did some good things in this game. He was under duress the entire game. And remember, this is a really patchwork offensive line. So you don't know what you're getting from week to week with these guys. And he's having to endure a lot of shots. He's having to run around. He's having to try to make things happen. He doesn't have a lot of skill guys who are helping him out. So from what I've seen from Carson Wentz, he looks like the part of a real deal NFL quarterback. Again, hard to really tell these things in this league from year to year. You just got to see consistency out of the kid. But he's looked good. But again, there are a number of questions. Carson Wentz threw 3 interceptions. He could have thrown 6. The Cincinnati Bengals dropped about 3 interceptions in this game. He could have easily thrown 6 interceptions. So you can't ask that guy to throw it 60 times. It's just not a winning recipe in this league, especially for a rookie quarterback. They're going to have to find new and creative ways to get guys the football in space. I think they're becoming a lot more predictable and vanilla. And earlier in the season, they were anything but. You didn't know what flavor you were going to get from the Eagles. It was anything but vanilla. Now it's pretty much standard operating procedure now that it's going to be something that you can kind of figure out on film if you watch enough of it and kind of figure out what the Eagles are going to do in what situation and plan for it. And so they got to figure out ways to scheme up some plays for this talent-challenged offense for the Philadelphia Eagles. As they struggled in this game, and the defense wasn't much better, but they didn't get any help from the offense, so it's kind of hard to beat them up, beat up that unit when they're not getting any help. But to give up scores on your first 6 possessions, that's not winning football either if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's a rough go of it for everyone involved. I thought the Eagles missed some opportunities to talk about. Wentz could have thrown 6 interceptions. Dalton could have thrown a couple too. One in particular dropped inside the red zone by the Eagles that they ended up getting a field goal out of. There were opportunities to be had, and they just didn't take advantage of them. It was a really bad game by the Philadelphia Eagles, and they lose 32-14. I think, like I said, and I said this about a month ago, that we're going to find out if the Eagles are serious about having a winning season this year, because I didn't think they were a winning season type of football team. I didn't think they were ready for that yet. And over the last month, we've seen, they're not ready yet. They're going to probably win 7 games this season, maybe 6. We'll see what happens down the stretch in these final 4 games. They're going to win at least 1, possibly 2. They won't win more than that. And they'll finish this season off 7-9, 6-10 under Doug Peterson in his first year as a head coach. And we'll see what happens in the offseason, how they build this roster, and what moves they make to improve the roster and the talent around Carson Wentz. But this was a forgettable game for the Philadelphia Eagles as they dropped to 5-7 on the season. For the Cincinnati Bengals, you go to 4-7-1. Season's done, but like I said, it's all about developing the talent you have. You have a lot of young football players on this team. Time for them to get some snaps, show what they're worth, and see who's going to be able to help you moving forward and try to put this thing back together and climb back on that horse next year. See if you can't compete for the AFC North Division crown next season. So let's get to some of these comments quickly. Enrique Valencia says, remember when my comp for Wentz was Alex Smith? I found a new one that kind of fits better, but you got to hear me out. He says, Wentz reminds me a little bit of Bortles. Have accuracy issues, both have questionable decision-making, and lastly, both have mechanic issues. Read that some GM and some members in the Eagles coaching staff have a problem with his windup. It's kind of like how Bortles winds up. He says that's why some of his throws are over the head of receivers by a mile. That's why he's struggling recently. 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, into when he started 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I look at it like this, and those are all valid points. His windup isn't like Bortles. Okay, so yes, he does have some funky mechanics, does Wentz. His windup is kind of funky. It does have a little loop in it, all those things. But this is the thing with Wentz. His decision-making is nowhere near as bad as Blake Bortles. Like, when he makes up his mind and decides to run, he runs. He can throw the football way more accurately than Blake Bortles can. We saw it at the beginning of the season. What I think is really his undoing right now, guys aren't winning one-on-one matchups. They don't have a lot of talent around him. The offensive line has been horrible, so he's getting pressured. The Lane Johnson suspension hurt. All the injuries along the offensive line have hurt. The lack of production at the running back position has hurt. Having no skill guys at receiver and the tight end position, that's hurt. You're looking at a team that is right now deficient at key positions around a rookie quarterback. That's going to hurt. Earlier in the season, I told you this. They did a great job of game planning. But guess what? There was nothing for you to go off of to say, hey, these are the tendencies that the Eagles have. So you know what the first 3 weeks of the season really did? Was it set the blueprint. Teams were able to go back and watch the film from what the Eagles did well in the first 3 weeks of the season and then make adjustments. And as the season continues to go along, teams make more and more adjustments. The Eagles became more and more predictable. And all of a sudden, a guy that started 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, now you know what's coming on 3rd and 9. You can prepare for it. And oh, by the way, now the offensive line has some issues, so now you can get after him. Now you can force him into some errant throws. Yeah, and sometimes there's a clean pocket and he air mails it. Yeah, that's going to happen from time to time with him. Those are all mechanical issues that may or may not be worked out. But I won't compare him to Blake Bortles right now because I've seen things from him in his rookie season that I'm still waiting to see from Blake Bortles, like a commitment to run when there's nothing there on the play. Instead of standing there like a deer in headlights, waiting, and then deciding to run late and it's too late. Or taking a sack or forcing the football into a tight space when it's not there. When guys are running open and he's got a clean pocket, there's about a 60% chance that Wentz is going to hit him, which you can't say the same for Blake Bortles. I like Wentz. I think he's much better than Blake Bortles, but time will reveal itself. I don't want to sit here and have this conversation. He's not even fully through his rookie season yet. They need more talent. That's bottom line. There's so much talent in Jacksonville, it's not even funny, yet Blake Bortles stinks. That's not the case in Philadelphia, so I refuse to compare the two right now. It's too young in the season, in the career of Carson Wentz. But I will tell you this. He has struggled of late, but he's a rookie, and you expect these growing pains, especially with a football team that around him isn't surrounding him with the most talent. So that's the way I address that. But Yeah, I think it's a really interesting debate and conversation to have, but I don't think that he's on the same level in terms of ineptitude as Blake Bortles. I don't even see Blake Bortles as an NFL starting caliber quarterback. I just don't. Whereas Wentz, I see flashes enough to know that this guy has it. Now it's just a matter of putting it together and getting him some more talent. There are questions, some things that need to be ironed out with Wentz, no doubt about it. But you got all off season and you got time to continue to work with this guy and see if you can't iron out some of those wrinkles in his game. But with that being said, that's going to do it for the Cincinnati Bengals and Philadelphia Eagles here on Lockdown Coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the National Football League on the Louie Tee Network on Lockdown Coverage. Cincinnati Bengals lead this game at 4-7-1. Philadelphia Eagles lead this game at 5-7. So that's going to do it for me on this breakdown. I'll be back with more, including Tom Brady and the New England Patriots getting it done versus the Los Angeles Rams. Brady getting his 201st win, setting an NFL record for the most wins by an NFL quarterback. We'll talk about that and more in the next breakdown. See you then. Have a good one.